Welcome back to the CEO's Off the Record podcast. I'm your host, Jess, and today I am interviewing friend to the show, Vicki Weinberg. I last interviewed Vicki back in October of last year, I think it was. And Vicki is amazing. Like, she's so knowledgeable. She helps product-based businesses and founders successfully sell their products on Amazon. If you've been thinking about adding your products to the Amazon platform, you are not going to want to miss this episode. With over a decade of experience selling on Amazon, Vicki guides her clients through the platform, shows them what actually works, and helps them make the most of Amazon's opportunities. She also hosts the Bring Your Podcast Idea to Life podcast, a weekly show for product founders sharing real stories, practical advice, and honest conversations about building and growing a brand. Today's conversation is about preparation, real preparation, the kind that sets you up to win before you've ever uploaded a product or opened an Amazon seller's account. We're talking about what needs to be in place before you take the leap. How to know when your product is actually ready for Amazon and what separates sellers who gain traction early from those who struggle right out of the gate. This episode is for business owners who want to treat Amazon like a serious revenue channel and build it with intention and clarity and strategy from day one. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab you a glass of Chardonnay, get a notebook and pen, and settle in for a fabulous episode. Vicki, thank you so much for joining me today on the CEO's Off the Record podcast. I am so excited to have you back on the podcast. I think this is going to be a good one. Last time you were on, I had so many more questions for you, and I'm like, I have to have her back on. So I'm glad that I was able to get you to come back on today.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me back. I really enjoyed our conversation last time, so I'm delighted to be here again.
Awesome. So we're talking about Amazon. And like I said, I have a ton of questions. For somebody that's watching, that's intrigued by Amazon, but they're still kind of on the fence. They're not really sure if their product would go well on Amazon. What are some of the early signs that tell that they're actually ready? Like, their product, they themselves, their systems, everything is ready to start selling on Amazon.
Okay, so first thing is, let's talk about their products and their systems, then we'll talk about the Amazon side. I mean, the first thing is people already buying their products, because if people are already buying your product, whether that's on Shopify or wherever that is, that gives you an indication that, okay, this is a product people like, they're buying it. So that's like one good indicator. The other thing to think about is, can you sell your product on Amazon? You can sell most things on Amazon, but you can't sell everything. I'm not going to give you a list because it changes, but there are some things you can't sell, and then there are some things you can sell, but you might have to go through additional checks. So, for example, I'm working with a lawn care brand at the moment in the US, and because they sell lawn care products, we have to submit safety data sheets. We have to prove that their products are, how do we say it? They've been they're under the appropriate regulators. They've been checked. They've got registration numbers, all this kind of thing. Now, all of this is fine. We have it. So the first thing is, can you sell your product on Amazon? If you can, are you going to be asked this extra kind of information? If so, do you have it? Because some people might not. For example, in the US now, you're about to have these new legislations for food supplements. And if you're selling food supplements on Amazon at the moment in the US, you're going to be asked to have your products tested by like an independent factory. This isn't coming in yet. It's coming in later this year. Some people will already have that done. Some won't. And so you need to just find out what's involved in getting set up and think, okay, can I do that? And am I willing to do that? Because I'll be honest, for some people, I speak to them and I say to them, okay, you sell this type of product, so this is what we're going to have to do to get you set up. And they go, do you know what? Sounds like too much work. I'm out. Absolutely fine, absolutely valid, but at least you know. And if you do want to go ahead and get started, at least you know what's required. And that's the other thing I would say about being ready for Amazon, as well as knowing that you've got a good product and people are buying it and you know find out what's involved in getting set up on Amazon. I hope you don't mind me mentioning, I've got like a free resource on my website. It's literally a checklist that tells you exactly what you're going to have to do. Take a look at that. Think about, okay, what's it going to be? What's involved? How long is it going to take me? How much effort is it going to be? Do I need to get someone in to help me or can I do it all myself? Because what you don't want to do is day one, open up your laptop, go, right, I'm going to start selling on Amazon. And then you haven't quite realized the task ahead of you because while it's not complicated, it is a process. It can take time. And I think knowing what you're going into is super important.
So you mentioned that, like for the example, for the supplements and for the lawn care, that there are specific things i- here in the US that folks have to think about. When you're signing up or when you're setting your products up in Amazon, do they ask you what countries you want to sell in? And if so, do you have to abide by like multiple country requirements?
So the way it works is you would typically, most people would start setting up in wherever their like core marketplaces. So if you're in most US sellers, not all, would start selling in the US. And you've also got the option to sell in Canada and Mexico under the one selling account. If you want to expand further than that, so you want to sell in Europe or Australia, you almost have to think of it as an add-on to your account. So it's the same system you're logging into, but you have to bolt on these extra countries and regions. And as you said, yes, all of them do have different requirements, which is why it can be really good to start off in your home marketplace, the one you're most comfortable with, because presumably you will then be, you will already be complying with any legislation, you'd hope anyway, if you're already selling something. And it will be a lot easier for you if there's different legislation or different loopholes you have to go through. It's so much easier in your own country when you're aware of what they are. When you start expanding to other marketplaces, so for example, I work with a lot of UK clients selling in the EU. So, and the European Union have some different rules around things like packaging and all kinds of different things. There's different information you have to provide, which is why I always suggest to my UK clients start in the UK. It's easy, you know what you're doing, and then expand. So you can sell everywhere, you can sell just in one marketplace. It's completely up to you how you do it.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the actual product itself, are there types of products that do better or worse on Amazon? And how would someone know that their product is like this would be a really good seller on Amazon?
First thing I would do, and it sounds really, really simple, is go to Amazon and look for products similar to yours. If you can see products similar to yours, that's a good start. If those products have already got reviews, even better. And I know you might be thinking, oh, but then I've got competition. But actually, that's good. It just means there's demand. That's what it means. It means there's demand. And of course, when you list your product on Amazon, you're going to make sure you have a great product listed and shows someone why they would buy your product versus this similar product. But if there are other products similar to yours with sales, with reviews, that's actually a really good sign. If there aren't any products similar to yours on Amazon, you may have to think about why. And then that's when you may have to do some thinking around, is Amazon a good fit? And it might be that your product's really unique. It's something quite new, but it's still something that's quite a good fit for Amazon. So, for example, I worked with a brand a few years ago who worked with a device. It was like to help kids be mindful and like in the present. And we decided that actually Amazon was a good marketplace for that product because it was somewhere that you did it. It was aimed at parents. Lots of parents shop on Amazon. Amazon's obviously really big for gift buying, which is another category this product came under. It was so unique, the actual product, that it wasn't there already. So sometimes you might have to, think it through a little bit further than that.
No,
The other thing I like everyone to do before starting to sell on Amazon, and apologies if I said this last time and I'm repeating myself, is
no
so
problem.
let's say, right, you've got a great product and you figured out Amazon is a good marketplace, is work out whether you can afford it because there are fees involved. So you're paying a fee to have the Amazon selling account. You're then paying a referral fee on every product sold, and that varies depending on the type of product. So I can't give you the percentage, but that's a percentage. And then you're paying, if Amazon are storing and shipping your product, which is called Amazon FBA, and that's where customers get prime delivery, you're paying them for that as well. And you really need to look into what these fees are going to be and just make sure that Amazon can be profitable for you, and building in things like you might want to use Amazon Vine, which is a way of giving free product to get reviews, because reviews on Amazon are important. You don't have to use Vine, but you have to do something. You might want to invest in some Amazon advertising to kickstart your sales. So just think through all of these things and figure out, can you actually afford to be there? Because while it could be the best marketplace and you could think, yep, this looks great, if you're not going to make any money, then it's not the one for you.
Now, do their fees come out of the cost of your product, or do you have to cut them a check every month or quarter?
So the way it works is they almost, you think about it like they keep a tally. So every time you make a sale, they'll take away the referral fee for that sale and then leave you with the balance, and it all adds up. And then at the end of the month, well, they pay you twice a month, but at the end of the month is when they're typically going to bill you your account fees, your advertising fees, your storage fees, that kind of thing. If you don't have enough money in your account to take those fees out, so what they'll generally do is, what you'd hope is at the end of every period, like every 2 weeks, is that there's enough money in there that they take their money that you owe them, and then there's a nice chunk of money left and they pay that to you. If for any reason that isn't the case and you owe them money, you will have put a credit card on file when you set up the account, or a debit card, and they will just take the money.
Ooh, okay. Okay. That's really important to remember because you can't be close to maxing that credit card out. They take the money off of it. Oh my goodness.
Yes, and that's why I really think at the beginning it's, you need to know, how much will this be costing me and how many sales do I need to make so I'm breaking even? Because it might be that if you're selling at volume, it becomes profitable, but if you're only making a certain number of sales a month, you're not, because obviously you've got that account fee as well. So I think really looking into the numbers before you start, before you even like pick up, your laptop and start opening that account. And there's actually something called the Amazon FBA fee calculator. I'm saying that slowly so you can Google it. It's completely free. It's provided by Amazon, and you can put all your data in there. You can say, this is what my product. If you want, you can even tell it what, your production costs. You don't have to go into that amount of detail. But what you can say is, this is what I'm selling my product for. This is the price I'm going to sell it for. This is like what type of product it is. Is it a toy? Is it kitchenware? Whatever. And then Amazon will break it all down for you, and it will tell you per every item sold, this is what you're paying in fees. And that is so, so useful. So please do that. If you're thinking about Amazon, that has to be like the final check before you even think about getting started.
I'm glad that they have that. I think that that's really important because inside of my program, the one thing that I mean, stress, is knowing your break even point. Because a lot of people think that just because they made a sale, they made money. And that's not the case. Even in, I wouldn't say even, I would say especially when you are selling a product where you had all of the costs to make the thing or to buy the components, which would, we think about, but all the extra things that go into selling this product need to be included in that. So yeah, knowing that break even point is so, so important.
And that reminds me as well, just to jump on that, is to say include the shipping cost as well. Because if you're listening to this and you're thinking, it's fine, Amazon aren't shipping the product for me, I'm going to be shipping it. That's great, but that's still going to cost you. So make sure you include that, because you need to be, like you say, Jessica, it needs to be all of your costs, because you don't want to get a nasty surprise. I genuinely have had people come to me and say, I've been on Amazon for 6 months or whatever, and I've suddenly realized I'm not making money. I'm actually losing money. And that's not where you want to be. You don't want to be losing money. You don't even want to be breaking even, unless you're there for just visibility, in which case maybe breaking even is fine for you. But ideally, you want to be making money. And if you're not, then that's something to look at.
Now, you mentioned shipping. When someone is selling, they have the option to either have send their products to Amazon and Amazon ships it out, or they can like they receive a notification that someone has purchased something and then they ship it out.
Yes, that's right. So they can choose which one they do. You can also do a mix of of both. So it might be like you've got some products that are standard size, they fit in a little box, and you think, okay, I'll send them to Amazon to fulfill. And then maybe you've got some big products and you're like, that's going to cost so much for someone else to store. I'll fulfill those myself. And that's one thing that I think is really nice, is you have that flexibility and you can change. You can start doing one thing and go, do you know what, that's not working for me, and switch to the other. So I think that's one of the pros about Amazon, is in that sense, it is quite flexible.
Okay. And then you also mentioned advertising. Now, I have to say, I don't have regular cable, what people would call regular cable here in America. I mainly watch Prime. Prime has free television, live television. So I watch that or I'll watch YouTube. But I will say when I'm watching Prime, they have a ton of interesting commercials that are for products on Amazon because of course Prime is Amazon. What's interesting is that they will show me advertisements for products that I was just searching for on Amazon. So it's kind of like that since you were looking for this headrest, here's, this best product line that you can purchase right here and here's how it looks and someone using it and it looks just like a regular commercial, but it's for whatever I was just looking at on Amazon, and it's worked a couple times. And who did like? I didn't see that one when I was searching. I think I'll take that. And so it's really nice. So if folks are thinking about advertising, Amazon advertising works.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And there's the kind of ads you're talking about, which are like Amazon TV ads. And then there's ads you can have on Alexa now. There's like so many different ways of doing ads. But for anyone getting started who's thinking this all sounds a lot, or I don't want to record a commercial, even like the most basic options for advertising on Amazon work really well. So you can have something that's called sponsored products. And that's where I recommend most people start. And all that means is when someone searches for a product like yours, you're coming up top in the search results. Because the great thing about Amazon advertising, the reason I think it works really well is people are on Amazon to shop. You're not there looking for ideas usually, or like, you might be looking to solve a problem, but you're looking for a product. You're looking to buy something to solve your products. Or if you're looking for ideas, it might be ideas for a gift. You've got a birthday coming up and you're like, what would a 40-year-old man want for his birthday? You know what I mean? But you're looking to buy. And that's why I think they work really, really well, because as long as your product matches what the customer is searching for, and you've got a really great product listing that explains why your product's great and how it meets their needs, and there's every chance of you getting a sale compared to other types of ads. So I get served a lot of ads on Instagram, for example, because that's the place I'm at the most. Sometimes they're good, but often a lot of them aren't relevant to me. They take me to websites that I don't know, and I'm like, do I want to put my card details in here? But the thing is, if you're shopping on Amazon and you're looking for something, you've already got your card details saved. You've probably got Amazon Prime. You trust it. You know that if something doesn't turn up, or it's not what you expected, you're going to get your money back. So I think there's a lot more faith in Amazon, which is why I feel like if you're on Amazon and you're trying to get more eyes on your products, advertising is a really good way of doing that because it is a crowded marketplace.
Interesting. So in addition to advertising, I tell people, and I preach this, everybody that listens to me knows I have said this a million times. If you are starting a business or if you are getting ready to pivot your business, maybe starting out on Amazon, I tell people if you're just getting ready to start a business, you need to have an audience beforehand. You have got to. Do not start a business and and no one knows anything about you. You have no followers because it's harder and takes longer to get that momentum. Before someone gets onto Amazon, would you recommend that they already have a large following on social media?
It certainly helps. Whether it's a social media following or whether it's people who are already buying on your website or buying from you somewhere else, having customers or followers really, really helps, because when you get started on Amazon, the hardest thing to get is those first sales. And the easiest place to get those first sales is for people who are already buying from you. And you can use your email list or your social media following, whatever it is, to incentivize people to come and buy from you on Amazon. Some people are a little against that because they're like, actually, a website sale typically costs me less than an Amazon sale. So why am I wanting sales up? Why am I trying to take my existing customers and taking them over to Amazon? But what I would say to that is that it's the easiest way to get those first sales, and Amazon rewards sales, you need to get them from somewhere. And it can be a one-off. So something I've seen brands do that work really well is create like a limited time discount code, like for 48 hours, 20% off using this code just for their existing customers and followers. So it's really time sensitive, which helps get those sales. It's not forever, so people can go back to the website after if they want to, but just as an incentive, because the other thing is you need on Amazon is reviews. People who are already buying your products, let's assume they like your products. So if you ask them to leave you a review, you can be fairly sure they're going to leave you a nice review. And also, they're more likely to leave you a review anyway if they already know you and like you. Whereas you can't ask customers on Amazon, new customers, to leave you a review. That just isn't a thing you can do anymore. There's no way of doing that. But getting reviews is hard. So I always say if you can use your current customers, people who know your products, like your brand, to come and buy on Amazon and leave you a review, it just helps you get started. Because coming back to what we were saying about ads, something else I recommend is before you switch on your ads, you get some reviews. Because it's so hard to convert a product when no one else has bought, or it looks like no one else has bought because there's not a single review on that. Even just a handful of good reviews will help you. And yeah, I know I'm repeating myself, but the best way to get that is from people who already know and like your product.
So if they're selling on Amazon, they can have both a website where they're selling and they can sell on Amazon. Do most people do that, have both options?
Most people do. You don't have to, although personally, I recommend it for a couple of reasons. One is if, say, something happens on Amazon, say you haven't submitted a piece of compliance evidence, or let's say sometimes things go wrong on Amazon and they'll close your listing and you've done nothing wrong at all. It's not you, it's their AI or whatever it is. But let's say for some reason you can't sell your product on Amazon, whether that's for a couple of hours, days, whatever it is. If you've got a website, if someone really wants your product and they come to Amazon and they're like, I want to buy this product, and it's not there, hopefully they will then go over to your website. It also means your existing customers can carry on buying from you on your website. It also means for anyone who comes across your products on Amazon and they go, I like the look of this, but I've never heard of this brand before. They can go and Google you and they can see, oh, they've got a website, they've got social media, they're obviously like a real company. Oh, they're a small business, I didn't know that. Oh, they're female founded, whatever it is. They can just find out a little bit more about you. And I think it helps with that trust, which I think is really important. Because as I said, there's a lot of trust built into Amazon because you know it's secure, you know your stuff's coming, you know you get your money back. But for a lot of people who want to buy from independent brands, something I hear a lot, and I don't know if you hear this, is I don't want to shop on Amazon because I want to support independent brands. There are plenty of independent brands on Amazon. And I feel like just being able to have somewhere else you can direct people really helps with people seeing a bit more about you and your business. And they can choose, they can buy on your website, they can buy on Amazon. But I would say always give people the choice.
Okay. And when someone is selling their product on Amazon, they don't get any customer information like email addresses or anything like that. So if you're selling on Amazon, you don't own your customer base database over there. You only own the customer database if they are buying from your website, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And that's the other thing. It might be, so everyone has different reasons for getting on Amazon. Some people want to use Amazon as a way of getting new customers and getting those customers to their website. So, they might have like really prominent packaging with, their social media handles, or their website might be quite prominent on their packaging, for example, or they might have an insert of like a discount for their website because they want to get people over to their own site. That's not how everyone, some people are like happy to just grow on Amazon, but for some founders, that's important to them, that actually that customer eventually will come over to their site. So like you say, they've got their data, they can email them with offers and new products and things, which you currently can't do on Amazon. So I think there's lots of reasons why I would say having both is a really good idea. The only caveat I'll mention, and this isn't to do with your own website, is that if you're selling on other marketplaces, and, some people might be selling on Walmart, for example, in the US, or I'm not sure what your other big ones are, Etsy, I don't know if you have Not on the High Street. Some of
Mm-mm.
those other marketplaces, so Not on the High Street is a UK marketplace, and they actually stipulate that if you sell on there, you can't also sell on Amazon. So while we're talking about different sites, I would just mention that if you are selling somewhere else, just check that they're happy for you to be on Amazon as well, because some places have a rule where it's like either or. But your own website, that doesn't apply to. But as we're talking about marketplaces, and I like to tell you as much as possible, I just thought I'd mention that.
Oh, that's great information. I didn't know that. I just assume, it's free market, I can sell anywhere. So that's really good to know. When I'm selling on Amazon, are my prices going to match the pricing of my products everywhere, including my website? Or would you discount? Is it, what's the best practice there when it comes to pricing your products?
This really varies, and this is like a really common question. So I would say if you can afford to make the offer on Amazon and the offer on your website the same, why not? It might be, though, that you actually want Amazon to be slightly more expensive from your website to account for the fact there are extra fees. And now most people often say to me, "Well, is that okay?" And I say, "Yeah, sure, it's okay," because if you're buying on Amazon, you know that like I say, most people have Prime, not everyone. Shipping's gonna be fast, you can do returns. That might not be the same as your website, because if you're fulfilling your own website orders, that maybe they take 3 days to arrive, let's say, but on Amazon, it's 1 day, just for argument's sake. Most people will pay another $2, let's say, for that. I think, or whatever the equivalent is in whatever country you're in. So there's nothing wrong with selling for slightly more. Um, However, that some brands decide that they want to sell for slightly less on Amazon to maybe, encourage sales. But what I would say if you're going to do that is I would always make your price on Amazon the same or slightly above your website price if you feel you need to, and you may not feel you need to. And if you're happy to stick with the same pricing, do. But if you feel like, okay, it would really help me if my product's a few more dollars on Amazon, most people aren't going to quibble with that. And if they do care, they'll go to your website anyway. If you are then going to discount your product on Amazon, I would still set the RRP. I would still set the list price of what you want the list price to be. And then if you're going to discount 20%, you discount 20%, but then it's very clear on Amazon, this is a discount. This is limited. This is like a limited time. This is not the price. And I think that's really important, particularly if you sell your product in other markets, because other marketplaces might have rules that, yes, you can sell on Amazon, but you can't undercut our price. And also certain stores have that as well. So if you're selling your product into actual retail stores, they might have some rules around pricing. They might say, you can't sell your products on Amazon for cheaper than we can sell in our store. So these are all things to consider. And that's why I think at the beginning, we spoke about the fees and play around with different pricing at that point. I wouldn't significantly raise your price on Amazon, but if, as I say, if a couple of dollars is the difference between you breaking even and making a profit, why not?
Yeah, yeah. I know when I used to sell on a website called Udemy, and that's where you could sell like courses and
Yeah.
things, for people to learn things. And one of the things that I hated, oh my gosh, I hated about it was that they would come out with their sales on a regular basis, and they would discount everybody's course down to like 14.99 or 9.99. And in some cases, depending on how many sales you've had and where you kind of landed, if you were on the lower end, you didn't have, a say over whether they could do that or not. How do sales work at Amazon? Because I know I'm always looking for that little limited time, that little red, limited time badge that says that the price is lower. So do they have control over when Amazon reduces the price or puts things on sale?
So if you are selling your products on Amazon yourself, so you're using what's called Seller Central, you control that. So if you have a sale, that's your decision. You decide when, you decide how much, you decide which products. If you're using Amazon Vendor Central, which is a different system and a different model that I'm not going to go into that much detail because most people don't use this model. It's typically like larger brands. But this is a model where you list your products, but then Amazon buys them from you in bulk. So it might be that Amazon says, I'll take 100 of these and 100 of these, and then they sell them and they sell them for whatever price they see fit. And yes, you can give them guidelines around pricing, but they may or may not stick to it. Personally, that I find that model doesn't work for a lot of people, and most of my clients, in fact, all of my clients are not using that model. So if you're just using Seller Central, which is, I guess, the main thing we're talking about, and for anyone listening, is probably the model you'd be using, you're in control of that. So you decide if you want to participate in Black Friday or not, or Cyber Monday or anything, or you can just discount your products on a random Tuesday just because you feel like it.
Okay. Okay. And so when I'm getting ready to decide that I want to be on Amazon. I want to put my products on Amazon. Are there back end systems that I already need to have in place or things I already need to have set up to make my transition over to Amazon smoother?
The only thing I think and the most important thing is inventory. So you need to have a system in place to fulfill orders, whether that is fulfilling orders that come from Amazon that you've decided to fulfill yourself, or whether that is you sending your stock to Amazon to fill on your behalf. That is the most important thing, because what you don't want on Amazon is to be in a situation where you don't have stock. So stock management is really important because Amazon works on what they call ranking, which is when someone searches for a product like yours on Amazon, where you appear, like whether you appear on page 1 of the search results or page 10 of search results without ads, but pretend we're not running ads here, varies on how well your product ranks. And if you are ranking very well and you appear on page 1, but your product goes out of stock and people can't buy it, your ranking drops lower and lower. So it's really important to keep an eye on stock. So I would say that's part of the thing that people sometimes miss, is thinking, how am I going to either send stock into Amazon to make sure they've got enough, but not too much, because if they have too much stock, that can get expensive, or how am I going to fulfill those orders myself? Also, bearing in mind that Amazon does set you targets. So if you receive an order from Amazon, you need to be dispatching it within a set time frame, because obviously they want to keep the customer happy. And you need to think through, can I do that? How will I do that? What will my process be? Am I doing it myself? Am I outsourcing that to a third party logistics provider? All of these things need to be thought through before you get started.
Okay. And I know before when we talked about it can take a lot of time to get started on Amazon, to get your footing, to get things going. When someone finally is ready to take that leap, what does a strong launch strategy look like? And what would be included in that launch strategy? I've decided I want to do this. What do I do now?
Okay, so once you've decided you want to do it, the first thing is to set up your Amazon Seller Central account. So that's the account that you use to sell on Amazon. That process doesn't actually take long, probably in 30 minutes. You can fill out the form, but then they'll do some ID checks on you and they'll want to verify some information about you, your business, if you are a business. So that can take a little bit longer. So that can be a little bit of time. So that could take, let's say, up to a week, perhaps. Maybe not that long, but I'm just kind of I have to give ballparks, because sometimes I'll tell people, oh, it could take up to a week and it happens tomorrow. But and other times it takes longer. So we just have to estimate all of this now, because one thing with Amazon we find out is they're quite inconsistent. So nothing, you can't always second guess. So you set up your Amazon seller account and then you have to actually list your products. But before you actually go ahead and list your products, what you need to make sure is you've got really well optimized Amazon listing text. So you've got product descriptive text that is really well optimized for Amazon. And what that means is a couple of things. It means it contains the keywords and terms that people are searching for when they look for a product like yours, so the SEO side, to help it come up in search. It needs to sell like the benefits of your product in a way that people understand, okay, this is why I would choose to buy this product. And it needs all of the information someone needs to make a buying decision. Because when I look at products that maybe don't convert that well, it's often because there's something missing, either something a customer doesn't understand or something that they don't know. And I've definitely done this myself. I've looked for something on Amazon and I've looked at a product and it looks good. And I've gone, oh, but how big is it? And there's no dimensions. And I'm like, I can't buy this because it's important that I know the size. I can't see how big it is. That kind of thing. So it's making sure that your listing is well optimized for search, for conversions, and that it's complete. You also need some really good product images as well. Images are really important on Amazon now, especially so many people buy on their phones. A really common thing people will do is open the Amazon app, they'll click on a product listing, and then they'll just go like this and just flick through the images. So the images need to tell you as much about the product as the text does. So you really have to think about, how can you translate everything you've got in your text into your images. And that might mean having some images. I say an image is an image, but it is text to get across some of the key points of your product. So that's really important. And then once that listing is set up, you can breathe a little bit, because you've done a really big piece of work there, which is fantastic. But then the next thing is, okay, how are people going to find my listing and buy my product? And this is a bit that sometimes people haven't given as much thought to, because it's all about, getting listed and it's great, I've got my product on Amazon. But actually, and I say this a lot, no one is just going to come along now and buy your product. It's not going to happen. They're not going to find it. And that sounds really harsh and really brutal, but it's true, because you're not the first product on there. And even if you are, it's a big place. You're not just going to come and get found. So the next thing is, okay, what am I going to do to drive traffic? So coming back to what we said, and I think I've really pretty much covered all of this before earlier, is like using what you've got: social media, email list, existing customers, try and get some sales, try and get some reviews. You can get reviews from people you know already, or you can use Amazon Vine, which is I mentioned briefly before, which is where you say, I will give you, Amazon, 50 of my product or 10 of my product for you to give to verified reviewers who are going to get this product for free. So you are giving away products. So that is a cost to consider if you choose to do that. And then you get a verified review. Those are the first things I would do. When I'm advising anyone to get started on Amazon, I'd say focus on getting some sales and some reviews. Once you've got those and you've built up some healthy reviews on your products, then you can think about advertising. And Amazon advertising for me is the best way to go. Sometimes people say to me, oh, can I just switch my Facebook ads or Meta ads over to Amazon? Yeah, you absolutely can do that if that's working for you. But if you are starting from scratch with advertising, I think on Amazon ads are the way to go. And then, so you're doing all of this and you just have to keep at it. So it's not about just setting up ads. So you set up your ads, you need to monitor your ads. You need to see what's working, what isn't working. You need to tweak them. You need to see, is there anything costing me money that isn't converting? Or is there something that's converting really well? I should be putting a bit more money behind this because I can now, because I'm making a return. And I know some of this sounds so simple and so basic, but these are honestly things that I see where people, they get so far and then almost stop. And I'm like, no, you have to keep going, and it will get easier. And once you start making consistent sales, even if that's through ads, you'll then find you're making consistent sales organically as well, because your listing's showing up, because people are buying your product via ads, which sends a strong message to Amazon, this is a good product. People are buying it, they're leaving positive reviews. So Amazon's then incentivized to show your product to more people, because every sale you make, remember, they make money. So it's just like a cycle, but you just can't, especially at the beginning, take your foot off it. If you want it to go well, it's not a case of, okay, I'm set up on Amazon, I can sit back. It's like, no, actually, that's when the hard work starts. And you're probably looking at least maybe 3 to 4 months of continuous testing and tweaking and telling people you're on Amazon and trying to get reviews and maybe doing some sales or whatever it is. But just, it's work to get those first sales. It honestly is work. It pays off in the end, but to get a quicker payoff, you need to put more in at the beginning.
I love that you said that. That made me so happy because I preach this and I feel like people aren't listening to me when I say this is going to take a minute. This is not something that's just going to, arbitrarily one day on a Tuesday, you're just going to whoop and it's good. You're going to have to put in the effort. You're going to have to, trial and error and pivot and try and fail and try and fail and succeed a little bit. And then it just, that's, it's like cheese tax. That's the tax that you're going to pay for, being in business. So I love that you said that because I preach that, oh my gosh, all the time. But that is the expectation that people have, What other expectations have you heard new Amazon sellers or people that want to be on Amazon say, and you're like, oh my God, I wish somebody would stop with these specific expectations that are not true?
I think there's lots of expectations around when it will become profitable, or when you can stop advertising, or when you're going to hit like a certain amount of revenue. But all I can say is, having worked with lots and lots of different brands, it really varies, because there's so many other factors. Like some brands that I work with, they do really well from the outset and they don't need to spend a lot of money on ads. But typically, those are the ones who already had a really good customer base and a really big social media following. They already had that. Whereas if you're a brand who's maybe starting and you don't have that much in the way of existing customers, maybe you're quite new to social media, it can be a bit harder, because you're having to kind of customers have to find you, but then you're having to convert them. Whereas if you've already got, as I said before, and I know you speak about as well, if you've already got people who know and like your product, it is so much easier to get a sale. And that's not saying that if you haven't got that, you can't do well on Amazon. You can. It just might take a little bit longer. And I really wish people would stop like at this point, you should be earning this amount of money or you should have this level of sales, because it really does vary. If you're not where you hope to be or where someone told you you should be, it doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. Because the other thing is that's worth people knowing is there are other factors that affect things on Amazon. Like if one of your competitors suddenly decides they're going to slash their prices, that might have an impact on your sales temporarily. It might, let's be honest, it might. And that doesn't mean that you should follow suit, by the way, because I really disagree with that. I don't like price wars. I think your price is your price is your price. Doesn't matter if someone over here is like slashing theirs, forget about that, just do your own thing. But it could be something like that, or it could be like, so in the UK, sales in December for a lot of people were down across all kinds of sectors. It's just something that happened. Nobody did anything wrong. I think maybe people were just spending a bit more conservatively at Christmas time, like with gift buying. And lots of brands that I work with and lots that I didn't, their sales were down a little bit. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean like your Amazon strategy is wrong. It doesn't mean anything's broken. It just is what it is. There's that as well. Like I always try and say to people, put things like in, try and give things perspective. It doesn't always mean you've done something wrong or you should be like running a sale next week or you should be doing something different. Actually, I think there's a lot to be said if you've got a great Amazon, you've got the basics, like a great Amazon product listing, and you've got ads and you're monitoring them and they're performing well for you. Just stick at it. I think consistency is also really important.
Hmm. And speaking of that, is there a habit or a mindset that sets Amazon sellers apart, sets apart, those Amazon sellers that are really successful and those that struggle?
There's probably a few things, and I don't know if it's so much of a mindset, but one thing, and I kind of alluded to it there, but one thing that does not help is jumping around from strategy to strategy to say, okay, I'm going to do ads now, but though actually these aren't working, so I'm going to turn them off, or I'm going to try something different, or I'm now going to do a big sale, or that for me is when I see that, that's a flag to me that like this isn't perhaps going to work because Amazon, as I say, takes time. And or like people, they think, oh, I'm going to change my images around every other week. I'm going to twiddle with my listing text. I'm like, no, 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 keep things the same because Amazon doesn't like changes don't happen overnight. And I do think it rewards consistency. And by all means, yes, you should absolutely be reviewing your images and reviewing your text and checking everything's good. But you can do that once every 6 months. You don't need to be doing that on a weekly basis. And something I sometimes see is people who are in there constantly tweaking and changing and updating. And I I feel like if you want to be in there constantly doing things, like keep an eye on your ads maybe at that level or get really persistent about getting reviews, but don't just be in there trying something new every week, changing things for the sake of it because you're not giving anything a chance to land. But that's something I see, and that to me is usually a sign that someone's worried, like things aren't how they'd like them to be. But I think there's a lot to be said in like just staying the course, being consistent, having faith that you're doing the right things, as hard as it may seem. But I do think consistency pays every time.
Oh, awesome. I second that a million times, vehemently second that. Vicky, I want to thank you so much for coming back to the show and sharing all of this great information, expertise with us. You have a way of making Amazon feel less scary, less big, less tedious. So I am very grateful to you for coming back and giving us all of this great information. Before we wrap up, can you tell everyone where they can learn more about you and your programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at vickyweinberg.com. So that's VICKIWEINBERG. I'm on Vicky Weinberg UK on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, just come find me if you've got questions, please ask. As you can probably tell, this is something I love to talk about. So never be afraid to like ask me a question. Always happy to help.
Awesome, awesome. And to make it easy for everybody, I'm going to put all of that
Thank you.
information in the show notes and in the description of this video. To everyone listening, I want to thank you all for spending time with us. And I never take that lightly, that y'all take a few minutes to share a few minutes out of your day with us. And I am very grateful for everybody for showing up and listening in. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you watch us over on YouTube. Give us a comment if you have any questions for Vicki, and I will make sure that she gets any questions that are put down there, and then give this video a like. So I will see each and every one of you this time next week. Y'all have a good one. Bye.